Yes, so I for one
Yes. Wow.
I for one think we should move on then to
course.
Manchester United. The Manchester derby happened over the weekend, and disputably Manchester is blue. Chuck and the rest of the Red Devils are feeling the blues. Chuck, the game ends 4-1. What happened? Was this expected? Are you shocked? Are you surprised?
Look, did I expect City to have more of the ball? Sure. Did I expect maybe City to win that game? Sure. But did I expect the game to turn out the way it did? Definitely not. Because, I mean, if one thing that you need to have when you enter the Etihad is fight. That's what we've seen from Wolves, what we've seen from West Ham, that they fight against City. Regardless of what the end result will be, but they would fight. You know what I mean? And when you take into account the first half, City were the better team still, but we fought. We took our chance via Sancho. We troubled them when we could, because we pinned their defenders back. Their press wasn't all that effective in the first half. But in the second half, I don't know what changed. I don't know who flipped what switch, because seemingly City turned it up and Man United turned it down, and the intensity just dropped. People lost interest. So not satisfactory. So in terms of what was expected, not exactly how it went down. The thrashing that we got in the end, it became a thrashing. It's one thing, when you look at the game, you're Tottenham against Everton, where they go into halftime and it's already 3-0. It's like, okay, this is going to be a long night. You go into halftime thinking, no, we're in this. We can also throw as good as punches as we're getting. But as soon as the whistle goes, the game changes, because we concede very, I mean, now reliving all the defensive mistakes now that happened and giving these. I mean, the flick by Foden, that's great. That's masterful. But what happens after that? Yeah, the giveaway.
The giveaway to invite them to come score the goal.
It could have been avoided. You know what I mean? And nah, man, it's one of those things that you feel dejected at when goal number 2 goes in and Kevin is running away celebrating. You're like, here we go again. Even before Mahrez is introduced, because at that point heads are down, the performance is down, and no, man, it sucked. So
there were good things from Manchester United initially, as you say. One of those things being the press. The press from the 6 guys playing in midfield and in the forward line. They are so much further ahead as a team in that aspect of the game than they were prior to Rangnick arriving. You see the things that they've been working on the training field. The issue with that is I don't feel as if the defenders, the back line, was supporting that press, because every time City then broke the press through the middle, there is an ocean between the line of midfielders and the line of defenders. Whereas if you see how that works at Liverpool, as we've put it before, that the risk is if you push up high, they can clip it behind you. But that's how you play that, because especially with City, if you then give them the space in front of you, they're able to manufacture a chance through like the defensive line. So Maguire and company, they should have done a better job of being further higher up in the pitch. And that's a difficult thing, though, because it's against City. But when you have decided that this is the approach you're going to adopt, you need to be full on in that. And you cannot abandon it somewhat, and you cannot abandon it late. That is what happened with Manchester United. As soon as the third goal goes in, they're a different team. They're dejected, and they are not doing the good things that they were doing that kept them in the game in the first half. Some of the bad things they were doing is what I mentioned in terms of the defensive line not supporting the press. But also those first 2 goals. The first goal, City go to, what City want to do ideally. They want to go to the byline, they want to cut it back, and then have one of the midfield runners finish off that chance. You can see them doing that. Someone needs to be a little more proactive, picking up Kevin De Bruyne. He can't just be standing there by himself waiting. Yes, it was unlucky in that there's so many ricochets and it comes back to him. But in terms of what you could have done to prepare for a different outcome, is you could have been more on your toes and not on your back heel. You could have pressured him more, and then that second goal, like what the heck is Wan-Bissaka doing? Why would you be so casual to give these guys the ball around that area? It just doesn't make any sense. You should do better in that situation. And the other thing for me, Chuck, there was a difference. when you play against Manchester City, one of the things that they examine you on, because they also enforce a press themselves, they ask the question of, how's your technique? And when I looked around at Manchester United, Sancho and Pogba are the only guys in that team, in my opinion, whose technique can hold up under immense pressure. I'm a fan of Bruno Fernandes in terms of what he gives to the team, but even he, in that cauldron, in that situation, he's not equipped, he's not adept at doing the things which you need to be able to do in order to keep the ball moving and to keep these guys off of you. He doesn't have the technical ability. And as I'm saying, all around, McTominay, not someone who can give you that either. So it is, again, for me, another example that, man, if this team is going to move forward, you need different guys in some of these positions. Not with Bruno, but people like a McTominay, people, as I'm saying, people like Wan-Bissaka. You can't just be there to defend. You know, we don't splurge like £50 million so that you can, in this day and age, when we see Abu Trent and James in them, you can't just give us that. And then when you give us that, you're going to give an assist to the other team. Come on, man.
Look, all of those are valid points, but I think the team needs to get better at working as a team, because you point out very, very clear that the 6 will press and the 4 somewhat is a disconnect and there's space. Even if City win the ball on the edge of their own half, going off in the offensive direction, it looks like a counter, simply because of that space, right? And here's the thing, and they not everyone knows their particular role when with or without the ball. It seems it'll come. It's almost like a total football without any leaders. And I think if you're gonna rotate your position so often, you need to have leaders. You need to have trigger runs. You need to have trigger movements. When the opposition comes this way, this is where you need to be. Here's one thing I have an issue about with the defense, and obviously let's single out Maguire because I'm not happy with Maguire. Every time City are on the break, look out for Maguire's hand. He's always pointing at someone. Like, dude, humble your marker. You're the slowest. Rather sacrifice yourself now. If they beat you, let them be covered. Don't be the one who's the last man. You're not the guy. And so that for me says a good. When City are on the break, and fine, they are City. They play exceptional football. They've got good positioning, good rotational play. But when people are on the break, you need to know what your roles are, because you need to know if this is supposed to happen, I am going. You're going to cover me. Or vice versa. I need to know that we're going to push them wide so that we can salvage some particular position in terms of defensive fortitude. But if you guys are always just running around, you are going to get exposed, because at some point it's going to drop for the opposition. If we do this, they're gonna track back. If we do that, they're gonna track back, and then all of a sudden it opens the case for them to run at us. So that needs to be fixed. Number one. Number two, technically, in theory, Fred, McTominay, that should give us control of the midfield, because the guys who run around to tackle, who are busy on the park all the time, but it doesn't happen that way, because positionally they're not adept. They're not really aware what's supposed to do, what they're supposed to do. If Pogba goes and leaves a space, someone needs to fill that space. If Maguire is building up from the back with Lindelof, someone needs to come and collect that ball again. They lack in those particular roles that City is very good at. I mean, Roddy does nothing much but come and collect the ball and give it to other people. And that's his role. And if he does it well enough, then you know Kevin's on the loose, Bernardo's on the loose, Grealish is on the loose, Foden's on the loose. They become dangerous simply because of that simple task. So what United fail to do are the easy things. They want to do all the difficult things, and they're not good at those difficult things at the moment. And so if they simplify their approach to attack, they simplify their approach to defending, things become better. But if you try and do Hollywood stuff, I mean, you know your limitations. Wan-Bissaka knows what he can, what he cannot do. Don't attempt, rather clear the ball rather than try to play a pass. Wan-Bissaka, since he signed, even when he was making all those tackles in his first season, he's never known how to pass. He's never known how to do that.
He's not improved in that aspect of the game. Sadly.
But what we will do give credit to City is on the fact that they were able to adjust. Like, no guys, we could take these guys. And it seemed like, as much as United have a decent record playing away at the Etihad, it seemed like City said to themselves, no, we are better than these guys. We need to take it up a level higher. And they did that. And they started exploiting the spaces that the midfield was giving them. So I think to City, they played to their abilities, and United crumbled. City
keep coming. Regardless of what happens, they keep coming. That is one of the things I'd commend Pep Guardiola in terms of his teams. Even in those semi-finals back in the Barcelona days, when the opposition was parking the bus and keeping them out, they kept knocking on the door. And that's what happens with the Manchester City side as well. Because and the adjustments are clear for everyone to see, because in the previous match against Manchester United, as noted, when Oli was trying to play a back five, Pep then says to his charges, empty the midfield, we'll leave Rodri by himself, and then the other two midfield players go join up the front three, and then we're going to match up 5-on-5. And the scoreline might have not been as dramatic as this one over at Old Trafford, but it was a beat down as well. In this one as well,
that was a better game, I think,
from them. Yeah, that whole game was a lot like what happened in the last 15 minutes, because the stat that's been seen around the world, that 92% ball possession, come on, man. I know at that point you've lost the game, but this is the Premier League. This is what the Premier League is famous for. This is what Manchester United are famous for: late goals, the drama, anything can happen. But when you stop playing, and then the other things that you hear coming out from, whether true or not, and you would think where there's smoke there is some fire, at least. Things coming out from the Manchester United camp, don't really know why Ronaldo didn't play. Then there's the matter of Rashford might be considering his future. And I'm like, well, why are you considering your future? What kind of performances are you putting up across on the pitch where you would feel as if you're being hard done by if you're not playing? Because when he came on, along with Jesse Lingard, why did you stay at Manchester United? Because you then come on in a game like that and there's nothing. And the rest of the team, there is nothing. Whereas with Pep Guardiola's team is dominating that match. But you look on the sidelines when they had the break for what was happening in the crowd. You see Pep talking to his players, and he's animated, and he is giving instructions that this is what he wants to see more of. This is where they can improve. That is a championship team. Whereas on the other side, like, people are trying to nurse that situation, and it's scary for me to look at that, because I don't really know, like, where do Manchester United going forward, because they've not been on a bad run of form. They've actually improved. They've been on a better run of form. But then this one loss, it just feels like it's deflated everything. And that's concerning, because, well, whatever good work we might do for a period of time, it feels as if we ourselves as the organization are not certain that it's something that we can keep going. We are an incident away from going back to dark and gloomy.
Look, I think when you say that where there's smoke, there's fire, there's definitely something happening at United, because I used to say, and I probably would still say, that unbeaten run early was luck, because you don't plan on coming back late in those games whenever you're playing away all that time. But that shows that team had fight, that had character, that late on you could not count Man United out. Think about that game against Brighton, where they scored post the final whistle because they just kept on fighting.
10 minutes after.
If you look at VAR and all those things, because they just had so much fight in them. This team, they concede late. They concede soon after the second half starts. They concede and they give up. That is alarming, because that is a complete 180 compared to what the team was not so long ago, a couple of months back when Oli was in charge, right? Their performances were bad. They got together in terms of pressing. They got together in terms of finding some sort of identity. They added Sancho, which I think right now is bearing dividends. He is a good addition to the team. One thing we can say is you can't blame this on Ronaldo, because people keep saying when Ronaldo's there, he or Bruno doesn't perform, or whatever, he affects the team negatively. You can't put it on Ronaldo this time, right? But Jay, I think we don't, when we make these comments, it's worrying. It's not really isolating this game only, because obviously you look at the game against Watford, put those guys away. Look at the game against Middlesbrough, and I know these games where they keep dropping points. When you come here, and we definitely are second best, but push the team, push them all the way. If you're going to drop your heads, if you're not going to convert against the small teams, drop your heads against the big teams. What next? Rashford wants to go. There's
and he can't even make it into the team, whereas Ronaldo is not there. Cavani's not there. Greenwood is not there. We know why. Martial's not there either. And instead, the coach goes with Bruno as the false nine.
There's a theory, Uguti, people are not respecting Ralph Rangnick because he's the interim manager. It's like, whatever, you're here only for a short while, which I don't think could be true, because...
And then there's quotes that came out apparently where they're talking about there are coaches' favorites, there are guys who are kiss asses to the coach, and I'm just like, man, it's high school over there. It's primary. Forget having high school. It's primary school over there. It's mad. I want to ask you about City though. Okay. The Manchester City coach, Pep, he quoted as saying that because clearly he doesn't reckon there's anyone else in this league, and in his previous jobs where he's landed, that his biggest rival is Klopp. Would you agree with that? In his 12, 13 years of coaching, his biggest rival has been Jurgen Klopp.
No, it was Ole. Because Ole's got a winning record against Pep.
Oh my word! I asked you this question before we came into record, and I said save your answer because I want to hear it when we actually record. I'd like to react to it.
Ole.
Not in a million years did I think you're going to say that. You're not serious, are you?
Ole had a winning run against Pep because it was almost like what he had against Tuchel, but over a couple of seasons as opposed to just one campaign. But to be real to you, I think longevity. You want to put Klopp's name up there. But for what happened last season, you want to put Tuchel's name there because he could not figure him out. I mean, fine, towards the end of the campaign when Liverpool had won their had won the league title, they beat them 5-something, right? In that high scoring game towards, I think it was under lockdown. They beat them and we can beat you guys. But last season, whether it was FA Cup, whether it was the league, whether it was the Champions League or whatever happened, Pep could not touch Tuchel. So I think, and we're waiting now on the return fixture, because obviously they got a drubbing in the first game in Chelsea. If they can contain them,
they lost by one, Chuck. They didn't get a drubbing.
Yeah, but there was a Pep masterclass.
There was a masterclass. They just didn't score a lot of goals.
Yeah, they dominated that game. And they were clearly the better sides. So what I'm saying that long term, definitely it's Klopp. But I think Tuchel is putting his name in the hat for that if he continues in the way he started last season.
Well, Tuchel would need to wrestle the Premier League title away from Pep, in my opinion. I fully agree with Pep. If I'm not mistaken, open to be corrected, the only time... Okay, there's 2 times. The only 2 times Pep has not won the league was his first season in England when I think Conte was coaching Chelsea. And then it's with Jurgen Klopp. And then Jurgen Klopp is also the guy who pushed them to have to make 98 points because Liverpool had the 97. And what they've already done in the Champions League, which Pep hasn't done as yet. And then when they match up against one another, what you see from Liverpool is what you see from Liverpool against every other team. They do not make adjustments to accommodate what Manchester City are going to do. We all know what they're going to do, and that's how Manchester City go into games, that they are not going to be dictated to. They're going to have their game and they're going to play it the way that their philosophy has been drilled into them. This is how they go about playing the game. Same thing as Liverpool. Liverpool fight fire with fire when they play Manchester City. And more often than not, and it's contrasting styles as well. Yes, Liverpool do keep a lot of the ball, but it's not in the same sense as you see from Manchester City. So I do think that because who else do you put in whose name do you put in the hat, like Jose Mourinho? Like when Mourinho was at Real Madrid, like the lowest I've ever felt as a Real Madrid fan was with that 5-0, and I was excited for Mourinho to come to Madrid. It's like, the guy who solved the Pep conundrum in the Champions League is going to be there the whole season, and he's got these players, got Ronaldo and the cast. And very quickly Pep showed that it's levels to this, even against prime Mourinho, in my opinion. So yeah, it has to be Liverpool, and then when you consider what Liverpool are doing this season, they've come back on Manchester City, and this looks like it's going to go down to the wire. And maybe Chelsea might come back into it. I'm not very confident of that, but Liverpool seemingly will be there with them, and hopefully we get a situation whereby City are still only 3 points or less ahead of Liverpool when Liverpool come to visit the Etihad, where Liverpool need to pull Thanos and say, fine, we'll do it ourselves, because Liverpool United did not quite work out.
Look, I think clearly I agree with you in terms of Klopp being his closest rival. Mourinho even had to backtrack and think, okay, so how do I solve this? Even deploying Pepe in midfield to try, kill off the hydra that was Barcelona, because they had so many dangerous, important things. But with Liverpool, they're fine with City having more of the ball. But when they have the ball, they're just so dangerous. But what I bring to the table, I think, which we'll see next season, I think it will probably be a 3-horse race. I think if Chelsea have their fullbacks fit, if Chilwell can stay fit, if Reece James can stay fit, they're different beasts, because what they did in the Carabao final against Liverpool, I think they can bring the very same fight to Chelsea, to City. So I think if they have all their players fit, and if they're not forced to play when their players are under COVID lockdown and whatnot, and because I think they lost about 6 points during that spell, and a lot of fans are furious about that our teams got to sit back and take a break or whatnot, where we were forced to play. So I think if they get the time to build their team, they get the momentum right, and maybe even get a striker, I think you can put their name in the hat.
Tuchel has to do something
based on
else.
performances. Yeah, based on performances, I think they're there. Just the points have not really warranted that.
All right. We'll see how this pans out. Manchester United definitely out of it. Manchester City going for the title, but Liverpool
even out of the top 4.
getting to that, actually.